Okay, so welcome back to Mesilas Yesharim, the path of the just. So we are towards the end of Parak Aleph, the first chapter, right? Which is called Be'er Klal Choyves Odom Ba'olamai, a general explanation of humans' obligations in this world, right? Your choiv, your obligation in this world, right? And we saw, so he starts out saying that, the first thing a person needs to know as a foundational thing is what is his obligation, right? What is he living for? What is he obligated to get out of his life, right? Then he says, we see that Hashem created a person to benefit, so he could enjoy Hashem's presence, right? So he can enjoy Hashem's presence. That's what he was created for. Then he says, where is the place? Where is your real enjoyment of Hashem's presence? Where is that going to take place? That's really happening in Olam Haba, right? But what's Olam Hazeh? Olam Hazeh is a way to get there. How do you get there? The mitzvahs are your intermediaries, are your keys to get yourself into Olam Haba. Step one. Step two, he says, if you continue looking into this idea, you will see that it's not just a game that God says, jump 3 times, you jump 3 times, right? And so you open, you're a good, obedient slave, and as a result, you get yourself into Olam Haba. No, it's a system. The mitzvahs perfect you, and perfection is Olam Haba, and gets you, right? So by him, toiv, good, and perfection are synonymous, because if it's not perfect, it's not good. It's quasi good, right? Because if for really to be good, it has to be perfect, and perfection can only be achieved by attaching yourself to God, because the only thing that's really perfect is God, and so there are elements of perfection, and by following the elements of perfection, one attaches himself to God. And so dveikus, so it's not just jumping through hoops gets you into Olam Haba. No, jumping through hoops, it's not just jumping through hoops. The mitzvahs are elements of perfection that elevate you to perfection. And then he says, but the world is full of nisayon, right? So the way you internalize elements of perfection is by overcoming nisayon, right? Without nisayon, these things are not internalized. So you have to overcome nisayon. What is nisayon? Nisayon things are elements that are of imperfection, right? What is elements of imperfection? Physical things, right? You avoid the gashmias and the temptation of this world to overcome them, and therefore you elevate yourself to a higher level of perfection. But then he says more than that. So the world is like an Ezer Kenegda, right? Like it's a Kenegda, it's against you. But if you kind of not get tempted, you will turn the world around and it will become an Ezer. It will become a helpmate. So you will sanctify the world and you will actually lift it up. And then he gives this example of Yaakov Avinu, right, on the stones, that Alaya Nir Tzadik Roishay, that they all wanted it, right? Because the world gets elevated when it is picked up, when it's used by a tzaddik in a proper way. And so by fighting off the chomrias of the world, you're actually lifting up the world, and you're switching it from being a chomri, from being a physical thing, into being a spiritual thing, right? And so that's the 3-step picture of what kind of a person's purpose in this world, right? Simple level, follow God's commandments. Next level is become perfected by God's commandment. Third level is elevate yourself and the world around you by God's commandments. Right? So it's a 3-layer process. Good. Now he's saying in general, so we see, then he goes back and summarizes, and he tells us that you see many statements in Chazal that say that for what you do is today, it gets you, works for your tomorrow, right? Your today buys you your tomorrow. And statements that Chazal says that Hashem took Adam Arishon and showed them the whole world, and he says, look at the beautiful world that I created, the whole world I created for you, make sure you don't mess it up. Okay? Now he's saying another thing. So that's where we're going to start. So on page 33 in this version, page 33, V'tira be'emes shekvar lo yuchal shum bal seichel lahamin. Now, look, in truth, that no intelligent being can believe that the ultimate creation of a person is for his state in this world, right? That can't be. You have it? Yeah. Okay. In other words, if you believe in God, right? If you believe in God, the Creator, and you see that this is the world that God created, this cannot be the full picture. This can't be the full picture. Because what are these lives? What is the life of a person in this world? Who is truly happy and peaceful, right? At peace. I'm sorry, in this world. Right? There's a pasuk in Tehillim. Our life is 70 years, of maybe a strength of 80 years. And most of them, omol ve'oven, are just toil and emptiness. Right? How much pain and sickness, and pain, v'trodos, and tirda, how do we say tirda, toil, right? Ve'achar kol zois, and after all the suffering of this world, hamovas, death, right? Echad mini elef, 1 out of 1,000 people, yimotze, you won't find shiyar be'olam loy hanois, that the world is kind of throwing pleasures at his feet. V'shalva amitis, or true serenity, right? People are constantly suffering, constant travails, challenges, right? The world is not a place, not a rosy place. So you're telling me that God, the Creator, the perfect Creator, created you just for this, and there's nothing after this? That can't be. It seems like, it's like you're watching a movie and the movie stops in mid place. You know that there is something else and the tape just broke. So this is what, when a person looks in this world, he should see right away that this is an incomplete picture. And even a person reaches 100 years, over a bottle min ha'olam, one person reaches, even though he's still alive, he was given longevity, but what's that life? A person of 100, his life is almost is no life. Mm-hmm. Right? V'la'oid. Right? So meaning, why is he telling us this? Why is he telling us this? Right? Meaning, like a lot of people criticize, in a certain sense, you're giving up this world for your next world, right? Have you seen the next world? No. So what are you doing? Go party, right? What are you doing? Giving up this world for your next world. And on the other, right? And you don't know. How do you know? Maybe there is no next world. So he's saying no. Anybody with two brain cells can see that there's, right? Again, you could deny God. That's a different story. He's not approaching a situation where the world is just came by itself, and he's not addressing that issue. He's addressing, yes, there's a creator. You believe that there's a creator, but as soon as you see this world and you understand the creator, then you understand that this is an incomplete picture. There has to be something else. Okay? And not only that, furthermore, if the purpose of creating a person was to put him in this world, a person that would not be required to have such a lofty soul. That this soul is actually greater than angels themselves. Furthermore, furthermore, this neshama has no pleasure, no satisfaction from the pleasures of this world. Has no satisfaction, right? So the neshama has no satisfaction in the pleasures of this world. So that's another thing that you see, that God created a creation that is not, what's the word? Not satisfied, not incomplete, right? In other words, create a creation that doesn't have its outlet. That doesn't make sense. If you create something, it has to serve a purpose, right? And again, this is something that even non-Jews appreciate, right? Anybody, like, I remember reading this line in Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell is a philosopher, one of these big philosophers of the 20th century. So he was saying something like, he was talking about memory. I mean, this was a discussion about memory, and he had a line, had I been a better philosopher, and I wouldn't care about what I'm eating and what I eat in the morning, then I may have trouble remembering what it is that I ate, right? But even he understands, right, that when you get to certain intellectual pursuits, your menial breakfast or whatever it is you're eating, your sustenance, what is it in comparison to an intellectual pursuit? Like, again, even a non-Jew he was totally, he was an agnostic. It was right. He has no interest in God, but he understands that there's some kind of a contradiction, not a contradiction so much, but a total disproportionate connection between an intellectual pursuit and some kind of candy. You get they're not comparable. So if a person has the ability to explore the mysteries of creation, right, he has given these powers of intellect to fly, in the spiritual realms. So clearly, it's not for this world, because you see that those two things just start once you're flying in the spiritual realms, you have zero interest in this physical world. It's only when we call ruach shtus, when a person lowers himself. Right? Shtus comes from the word shat, means like very superficial. When a person becomes superficial, so then he forgets his spiritual self, and so he gets taken up by the physical pleasures of this world. But generally, when a person is so inspired by his spiritual pursuits, then some of the physical things start being very, Unfortunately, it's very easy for us to switch on and switch off. That's the problem. When we're on, and when we go to sleep, and the next morning we could be totally off and back in the mud. Okay. Anyways, right? But the point here is to internalize this idea that we're seeing, meaning that the next world should not be as some kind of like a maybe hypothetical thing. It is a what's the word? You see it in this world. By seeing its absence, you see that something is missing. So it's present in its absence, right? Its absence is so obvious that it's present, right? Okay. This is what our rabbis taught in the Medrash of Kahelis. Right? Shlomo Melech says, and the soul is not fulfilled. And the rabbis say, what is this similar to? A villager who married a princess. If he brings her whatever is in the world, meaning whatever he has, whatever he has in his world, and he brings to her, for her that's nothing. Shehi bas melech, because she's a princess. Kach hanefesh, so to the soul. You bring for the soul all of the pleasures of the world. They're nothing to her. Because neshama is a spiritual thing. That's right. That's where we left off. By force you have been created, and by force you were born. Right. So again, this is what we were pointing out, that this is a different twist on the statement, by force you were born, by force you were created, right? He's saying something new here. Not just your life was given to you by force, but more than your neshama, your suffering neshama is thrust in this world by force, meaning against its will.
They don't want to come here.
Right, against its will. So by force, as opposed to just, usually you say by force you were born, means like you had no choice in it. You didn't ask to be born, you didn't ask to be taken away, right? He's saying something by force over here means against your will, right? Against your will. So ki ein haneshama yehevas ha'olam hazeh klal, because the neshama has no love for this world at all. Ela adarabba, but opposite ma'eses boy. It despises it, disgusted by it. Imkain, therefore, if so. Vaday lohoya boira boirachis borach brias letachlis. Hashem would not create a creation letachlis for the purpose shehu neget chukov v'nimas v'mena, for something that is actually the opposite of its nature, right? Hashem would not create something in order to create it for the opposite of its nature, right? That doesn't make sense. Really, the purpose of creation of an Adam, of a human being, is for his future state in Olam Haba. Valkein nitna boy neshama zois, which is why he is given this neshama, ki lo ra'ui la'avoid, because to her it is a proper to work, to serve, right? So again, this comes back to this point that the physical body, when it serves the needs of the soul, the physical body itself gets transformed into something spiritual. And as a result of the neshama, a person will be able to receive the schar, the reward, in its appropriate place and its appropriate time, right? So again, this maybe goes back to the machlokas Ramchal or the Ramban and the Rambam. If there is, right, if in Olam Haba there is a body, right? So in a certain, so really, the Rambam, what comes out from here is that the Rambam is right. How could you have a schar for in a spiritual world for a physical thing? Can be. The neshama is made for Olam Haba, is what the Ramchal is saying. The neshama does not belong in this world, right? It's only coming down into this world, right, to get elevated in order to be zoichet to Olam Haba. So, but really, the neshama belongs in Olam Haba. The body is very comfortable in Olam Hazeh. Well, that's not true. He said the body is also not comfortable in Olam Hazeh, as we saw. That was his first point, right? That there's sickness and there's troubles and there's all these things. But the body at least has some benefit from Olam Hazeh, right? But he's saying is that by the virtue of the body being subjugated by the soul, right, as becoming a tool of the soul, then just like the world is elevated by the person, the body of a person is elevated by the soul, right? And so the body enters the Olam Haba by becoming a
vessel for the soul.
What?
Vessel.
A vessel of the soul. A vessel, yeah. So shaloy davar nimas. Shaloy davar nimas el nishmasa ko'ilam hazeh, because there's no thing that is more disgusting to a soul than this world. Ela adra b'neva menechmad b'mena. Did I just read this wrong? Ubo yochel adam lakabel haschar b'mkoyim v'zmanu shaloy davar nimas el nishmasa ko'ilam hazeh. Ela adra b'neva menechmad b'mena v'zeh pashut. I don't know if I read this right. Okay, he's slightly wrong. Right? So in other words, this world is disgusted to the neshama, but the other world, the next world, neha v'nechmad mimena, is beloved by her. V'zeh poshet, again, and this is simple. V'zeh poshet, and this is simple. Okay? Good. V'hinei achar shi'adanu zeh, now that we know this, navin miyad, we will understand immediately, chomer ha-mitzvahs asher aleinu, the stringency, the chomer, how do you translate chomer? The significance, they translate over here, the significance. What's your glorious English translation of chomer ha-mitzvahs?
Chomer ha-mitzvahs. Gravity.
This is a good one. Gravity of the mitzvahs, right? The gravity of the mitzvahs of that is aleinu. The ikar ha-avoida, and the value, I don't know how to say it, the value of the avodah of the service asher b'yodeinu, that is in our hands. Kihine eilehem ha'emtsoim, because these are the intermediaries, hamaviin oisono el hashleimus ha'amiti, right? These are the intermediaries that bring us to the shleimus ha'amiti, to the true perfection. Again, he didn't say over here olam haba, he said to true perfection. Because really, again, it's really the same thing. Perfection, olam haba, and godliness, these are all the same thing, right? But he wants to, what's the word? Highlight that the reason why we're doing mitzvahs is not for the schar of Olam Haba, right? It's the Olam Haba is telling us that there is more to life than Olam Hazeh, but the reason why we're doing it is because Lishma, right? And that's perfection. We're chasing perfection. We're not chasing the schar of Olam Haba. We're chasing the perfection of Olam Haba, right? Because we want self-improvement. Asher bilodam leyusa klal. Ve'ulam yadua ki eina tachlis magia ela mikoich kibutz. Now, it is also known that you cannot reach your destination of perfection ela mikoich kibutz kol ha'emtzoim, only when you gather all of the intermediaries. Asher nimtzu v'asher shimshu lahagiyoi, which are found and which are utilized in order to get there. Right? If you want perfection, you can't just, achieve it through 5% of yourself. You can't correct 5% of yourself. You have to attack every single aspect of your person and perfect it, right? Now, I'm assuming there is still in the level of power steering. Again, this is just a side point, right? I mean, the pre-Mabul people that lived for hundreds of years, they had much more time, right, to perfect themselves. We live a certain time span, and we don't, and so our what's the word? Our game is shorter, right? Our game is shorter. So clearly there is this idea, and this beautiful idea, and that we need to keep in mind is that if a person lives, let's say, 10 years, but during those 10 years he maximized his potential, then it's very easy for God to say, okay, had he lived 900 years, he would maximize his potential for 900 years too. So there is like this, power steering, this virtual, you get certain virtual schar. Okay. Okay. Now, in proportion to the emtzoim, to the intermediaries, v'shimushim, and their utilization, so too will be the tachlis that will result from them. Right? So again, this is really, right? This is really a message that needs to be internalized, is that, like, on one hand, there's a limit to this message too, but on one hand, if we understand this, that our purpose is perfection, then really we should be jumping at every challenge and every opportunity to perfect our personality, right? And the more difficult and strenuous it is, then the more we should be jumping into it, right? Right. On the other hand, we say every morning, right? 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 Don't bring us to challenges, right? So, right, and we had many stories in Chazal where they say, "Oh, I'm going to put myself in the matzav of challenge," and then what happened? They failed, right? So, even though on one hand we say our whole purpose is to correct ourselves, so we should go around and put ourselves into various situations where we'll be tested, right? Because why not? That's part of part, right? Let's do it. Let's like boot camp. We're here in boot camp. Let's maximize it, right? But on the other hand, we understand that al tehit tzadik harbe, as Shlomo Melech says, don't be over righteous. You got to Hashem. That's why he said before, really, in the beginning of this chapter, he says hamizdamnim loikan, the mitzvahs or opportunities that mizdamnim, that happen upon a person in this world, right? Live your life, and Hashem will provide for you just the challenges that you need. You don't necessarily have to get on a plane and go to whatever, Cambodia, and find some poor people to help you, right? Okay, fine. Okay. So any minor deviation that is found in the intermediaries will have results in the consequences. When the time of the end, right? So in other words, the truth is, any minor deviation from the opportunities will have their repercussions. And that's clear. Right? So that's a little scary. Whatever, that's a little scary. But let's move on. So certainly the diktuk, the diktuk, the precision. Over here, the precision. Over here, what did they say?
Can't find it.
Let me see. Yeah. Therefore, there is no doubt that the meticulousness, okay, the meticulousness, okay, I lost it also, okay. The meticulousness which a person has to have with regards to mitzvahs and service, right? It should be to the utmost precision and meticulousness that a person can imagine. As if a person is a weigher of gold, and jewels, because they're so precious. Because the end result is perfection, right? And a minor imperfection, when it comes to perfection, a minor imperfection is not perfection, right? It's like it's either all or nothing, you know. So you have to. So according to, again, the Rachel is saying that you know I don't want to say drill baby drill. I mean, it's like it's get into every detail. Okay, because there's no greatness greater than this. Okay, now a summary. So comes out what we have learned. That the primary purpose of a person in this world is only to fulfill mitzvahs, and to serve, and to withstand challenges and tests. And the pleasures of this world, it's not appropriate that he should possess them, only in as far as they help, and assist, bilvad, only. They should have peace of mind, peace of mind. Right? So a certain basic satisfaction a person needs, right? We say, recent, more modern term, happy, healthy, happy, from. Right? When it comes to our kids, this is the priority, right? This is the progression, right? First, the kids have to be healthy, right? It's very, right? Then they have to be happy. They have to have a certain satisfied mental state. Then they could move on and deal with their frumkeit, right? If a person is unhealthy physically or mentally, if he's unhappy, then it's very difficult to have positive spiritual growth. So that's what he's saying, right? So you have to have some nachas ruach, right? You have to have some enjoyment from the physical world, because if you have no enjoyment from the physical world, then you can't move on, right? You feel a certain repressiveness and dissatisfaction. You can't move on with your spiritual growth. And you also need yeshiva das. You need to have some peace of mind. If your mind is too discombobulated, then also it's very hard to have spiritual growth. So you need to open up your heart to the service of God that is lying up and that is placed upon us. Good. It is proper, but once those basic conditions are met, then all pniyose, all of our directives, all of our turnings should be rakla boyres baruch, should be only for the to the Creator. There should be no other purpose in any action that we take. Small or large, to come closer to God. And to break all of the mechitzos, the fences, the walls, that that separate between him and his creator. What are the walls that separate us between us and the creator? These are all aspects of chumrius, of physicality, and whatever is dependent upon them. Right, and if you keep practicing this, if you break some of these mechitzos, then you will be pulled towards God, mamash kebarzel achar eben hashoevas, like metal is pulled towards a magnet. Right? So what he's saying is that once a person gets going in the avodah, once a person kind of trains himself to break through the physicality, then he gets pulled in. Then he gets pulled in. V'kol ma sheyuchel, and anything that a person yuchel lachshav is able to figure out, shehu emtzoi l'kirva hazois, right? Anything that a person smells out would be helpful to get him closer to God. Yirdof acharav, he should chase it, he should pursue it. V'yachas bo, he should grab onto it. V'lo yarpehu, and he should not let it go. Or anything that a person smells out that potentially could prevent him from coming closer to God, Yivrach mimenu, should run away from it, like a person runs away from fire. Right? David HaMelech says in Tehillim, my soul clings after you, to me your right hand is supported. Since we figured out that the person's coming into this world is only for this purpose, to connect to God, to reach this closeness. When he runs away, escapes from anything that prevents him, that pulls him down into the mud, when he escapes it, that's the purpose of creation. Now that we figured out this foundational principle, now we got to figure out, okay, but what are the details, right? We know that the purpose is cling to God. We know that the purpose is perfection. Okay, but now let's drill down into the specifics. What are the specifics and what are the priorities, right? Lefi madrego yisehem, right? According to their levels. What are the priorities? Right? Not everything, you can't do everything at the same time. So you got to prioritize. So you have madregos. Mitchilas hadover v'atzof, from the beginning of this path to the end. And we're going to follow the map of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Right? Again, you have to understand, this is Ramchal's world. Right? We're in Ramchal's world. Meaning, even in his world, you could have said, what did he just tell us? He said, listen, you got to chase every element of perfection, because kibbutz, you have to gather all elements, right? Perfection can only come from gathering of all elements. Okay, so start chasing. Go here, go there, go there, go there, right? No. Comes Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair and he says, no, here's your 10-step program. You start with this, then you move on to this, then you move on to this. There's a step-by-step progress. Again, that's a very unusual. Maybe meaning the world is a messy place, right? There's so many things going on. So you fight every battle. You will, right? Meaning, okay, you become a student, right? You need to get a diploma, right? You wanted to get a diploma with Zoltoy diploma, right? What's it called? Zoltoy medallia, whatever it's called, right? So what do you need to do? Well, very simple. Get an A on every test, right? Get an A on every test, and you will get your results, right? No, that's one way of looking at it. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is here is a program, right? And you have to excel. And first at this step, then at this step, this and this, and right. So it's not just a general thing. Get an A on every test. No, you're gonna do this, then you're gonna do this, then you're gonna do. So there's a progression, right? There's a progression. So Pinchas ben Yair gives us a progression. Vehem again. So now he lists them as heroes, as Jews, and accusers, etc. Okay. Now Now we're going to explain each one of them one by one. So let's start. right? So the first midah is zehirus. All right? Okay, before that. Let's just look at them. Let's go back, okay? So let's look at these 10 steps. Let's look at the 10-step program. And how well do we understand the 10-step program, okay? Right, let's just guess. Let's say now the Pinchas ben Yair didn't give us explanation, just told us, here are the 10 steps. Meaning, Pinchas ben Yair felt that we would be able to figure out the program just by looking at it, no? Yes, no? Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair just told us, if you do this, you'll get to this kedusha, right? You'll get to tchias amesim, you'll get to whatever. So what are these things? What are these things? How would you speak them out? Let's I think it's very important to have a preconception of what these 10 steps are. So okay, let's just go through it again. So what's zehirus? Zehirus means watchfulness. What does that mean? Watchfulness. Zehirut. So what would you say? So I would say, okay, first step is you have to watch over what you're doing. Right. You're starting to be conscious of your actions. Is that a good, is that a fair assessment? Zehirut. Become conscious of your actions and do the right things. Yeah? Okay, so that's the first step. Would you say that's a pretty good first step to growth? I mean,
watch for opportunities.
Okay, could be, but I mean, zehirut is mostly like caution, because like we go to Israel, there are these signs, tizaher, be careful. So it's like more like caution. So I don't know if it's okay. Next one is zrizut. Zrizut means zeal, right? So after you became cautious and careful, then you now become zealous. Okay? And then we get the next one, nikiyut. Then you have cleanliness. What is that? What is cleanliness? What is cleanliness? What is cleanliness? I got watchfulness, I understood. Zrizut, I understood. What is cleanliness? Washing my hands? Sanitizing? What's cleanliness?
Stay away from schmutz.
But wouldn't that be included in zehirut? Watchfulness, or so nikiyut is maybe more extreme.
Yeah.
Take it to the next level. First you became aware, now you could really, okay, fine. Then haprishut, separating. What is separating?
Us and them. Us and them.
Separating from non-Jewish influences. Okay. Next one is tahara, is purity. Okay. Next one is chasidus, saintliness. It's piousness, piety. Piety. What is that? What is that? Next one is ha'anava, and that's humility. You'd think maybe humility would be somewhere earlier in the game, no?
Yeah.
No? No?
Because when you succeed such a level, you start thinking too much of yourself. So come down with it.
So you think, meaning it's something that kicks in later.
Yeah.
But we could have said that at each and every level you need humility.
Yeah, but sorry, a lot out of base of busy on, but when you can.
Okay. Then yiras chet, fear of sin. Should be pretty early in the game. No? Fear of sin is like the second to last step is fear of sin, and finally you get kedusha, you got holiness, right? So where is keep all the mitzvahs? And which step of the way is keeping all the mitzvahs? Which level is that?
Actually, I thought that all those steps are referring to mitzvahs. That's how you approach mitzvahs. first you be aware, careful, then so on. That's how you approach keeping the mitzvahs.
That's how you approach
That's why,
keeping the mitzvahs. What does that mean? So where's
first you just be careful, that you do there was only stop, just step by step.
Okay, I thought that they were about a certain type of my being, certain way of, right? If the way he described it to us, at least in the introduction, is that we're trying to perfect ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So these are 10 steps of self-perfection, aren't they?
Perfect yourself towards doing mitzvahs.
It's true, right? Everything is mitzvahs,
So
but
that's-
what's the goal?
That's what I was the original said, is don't miss opportunities. Then it starts zero suits. I don't know, that's how it's jumping into me. I don't need that.
Okay, no, that's the point. The point is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a certain perception of how we would explain it, so that when we read what he has to say, we can compare if that fits with what we would have said. Right? That's what I think. Okay. Anyways, fine. So let's stop here. Then we're not going to start chapter 2 because it's quite late, and then we'll start chapter 2 next time already. Okay. Fine. Thank you very much.